Welcome to The View from the Ninian, where we're celebrating Cardiff City's best start to the season in 8 years, almost a decade, and we haven't been this good. Another win against Rotherham yesterday, and I'm joined by Tom Phillips. You'll notice Ben Price is away this week. Ben Price is currently dealing with some health-related stuff. We wish him all the best. It's not as serious as it sounds, but it might well keep him away for the next couple of weeks. So we are going to wish him all the best, and hopefully we'll have him back in a few weeks. It was a bit late notice, so we couldn't get a guest in this week, and Ryan March is in Germany. Over the next couple of weeks, hopefully we will have some extra guests, but Tom Phillips will just have to fill the gap of two people today. Tom, you've lost a lot of weight since you've been in Australia, but can you still fill the gap for two people?
I think it is going to be a challenge. I do plan on watching at least 36 hours of wrestling this week to become Ben Price.
Yeah.
I think we need that kind of edge to it. But yeah, considering how little I spoke in the Glenn Williams episode, this is going to be a real change up for me. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm well aware that I'm going to have to step up and speak more. Usually I just ask the questions. No one asks me my opinions. So today you're going to hear some opinions from me for once. I'm a dangerous man when I get on my pedestal, when I get on my soapbox. So hopefully I don't piss too many people off, but I can't make any promises. Two games to talk about, Tom, starting with the Swindon game in the Carabao Cup. Have I had a can of Carabao?
I haven't, no. And I've never been tempted. If anything, the more I see the branding, the less I want to drink it.
I have had a can of Carabao. It is like any other energy drink. I'm pretty sure they all come from the same factory. We won the game, Tom, but as much as we won the game, there were a few nervy moments, weren't there? And that was probably down to the kind of changes in personnel that BBM instigated.
Yeah, there's a few nervy moments. They broke through us at one point. I think for their goal, it was too easy. They missed an opportunity to thread the ball through and still had another opportunity to do so about a second later. But to be honest with you, outside of that, I thought we played pretty well. I think Holloway's comments were probably a little bit over the top. He was saying we were like, prime Brazil. But like, I can see why he's saying it, because we had moments in that game where we did look really, really good. I think you can see what BBM's trying coming into fruition now. Our passing game is improving game on game. And that was one of those games where, there's some decent performances across the park. And we're through in the cup, which we don't get to say that often. So decent result.
No, even last season when we played was with Southampton at home, we managed to score 3 goals against Southampton, who at the time were a Premier League team, yet we still lost 5-3. And that kind of summed it up really last season. So it is nice that we can go through to the next round. Obviously, we've got Cheltenham at home. We'll talk about whether we fancy ourselves a cup draw, but we'll talk about Ruben Colwell's free kick. He seems to have a knack for scoring belters in this tournament. It was his second free kick of the season. I think it's probably better than the Peterborough one. Tom, what do you think?
I think it's better than the Peterborough one, which I didn't think I'd be saying so soon after the Peterborough one, because that was an absolute belter as well. But this one looked like he was still rising when it hit the top of the net.
So well.
And like, just the way he celebrates them now is as if he expects them to go in. And it's a dangerous place to be for opposition now. They'll be thinking they don't want to be giving away free kicks around the box against us. Because we've seen this with Gareth Bale with Wales, where the crowd go, it's almost like you have a penalty.
There's that
People
expectation,
there's an expectation there. And I can't wait to get a free kick on the edge of the box now, because it's not just one type of free kick he's got. He can smack it, he can curve it. He's such a technically gifted player. And just the way he wheels off nonchalant as if, done this before.
Done it.
I think that's scary. I can't wait to see what he's got in his locker for the rest of the season.
I mean, the 2 free kicks he scored this season, one was, 4 yards outside the penalty box. This was probably 5 to 10 yards outside the penalty box, a lot further away. The first one, he hit with his instep and curled it away from goal. This one, he hit with his instep and curled it towards goal, but got such power behind it that it almost took the net off. I know Perry NG has been taking free kicks in the last couple of seasons, but why has it Colwell? It just feels like he's probably had this in his locker and he's just been biding his time, and now he's the main man. He could show it off.
To be I suppose he scored in the away at QPR.
He did,
and so he's been on and off free kicks, but I suppose he hasn't been consistently playing 90 minutes. No. So I think you don't get given the set pieces if you're not guaranteed to be on the pitch. So I think that's just it now. He's got that increased responsibility, like being vice captain, but captain really, because he's starting. And it's time for him to step up, and he's doing it through set pieces. He's doing it through his leadership. He's doing it through his running. Like, it's a perfect start of the season to him. And to be honest with you, I think we need him to calm down because he's getting a little bit too much attention. So I reckon we just rest him for a couple of weeks. But it's an unbelievable start to the season from him.
Well, I think it's 3 home games, 3 goals, 2 free kicks, and obviously the goal he scored yesterday, which was from open play. We'll get to that. Cheltenham at home, about 10 days' time, we'll be playing that game. I think it's August 25th. You got to fancy us to put together at least a third round, maybe even fourth round cup run now, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we're going to play a team as strong as we did against Swindon, then there's no reason that we don't win the game against Cheltenham. And it's going to be a really similar vibe. It's a team that are just down the road. They'll probably bring a similar amount of fans. Yeah, and I would be if I was them as well. We've hardly played them, and it's just down the road. Like if it was the other way around and we were going there, we'd be just as excited. Yeah. So I think it'll be a similar crowd from them. I think it'll be a slightly increased crowd from us as well because we've won a few games now, and we want to see a cup run, and we can sense a bigger team in the next round if we get through this. But I think it's the perfect draw for us. I think I didn't want a big club this early because at the moment we've got our momentum going. We're winning games, and I'd love to see us win another one. Like, I don't think the cup run would do us any harm at this stage of the season because we're a new bunch. It's a team who's still gelling. I think the more football we play together, especially at home, the better. So I'm really excited by the draw, and I definitely fancy us to go through.
Bit of a local edge to it as well. Michael Flynn is their manager. He'll be out in Peppermint after the game, I assume. And also, they are 24th in League Two. How many games they played, Tom? They've played 3. How many do you think they've won?
None.
How many goals do you think they've scored?
None.
Yes. They lost yesterday 5-0. They're currently bottom with no goals scored, 8 goals conceded, 0 points, 0 goals. So
I fancy us even more now. I didn't know that.
I think
so. There we go.
Hopefully, we can scrape a win, scrape past, and maybe play Chambers, maybe like Callum Robinson, give the main players a rest, and see us through to the third round of the Carabao Cup. I can't remember the last time we made it to the third round of the Carabao Cup. Did we do it under Bullet? So we did play Blackburn and Birmingham. What was that?
When we lost to Blackburn, we probably would have been third round by then, wouldn't we?
Yeah, you'd think so. Anyway, let's move on to the Rotherham game. Cardiff City played Rotherham yesterday at the CCS. It was a comfortable 3-0 win at home. Tom, when you looked at the starting lineup, the fact that there was no Callum Chambers, rested after the Port Vale fiasco. I'm calling it a fiasco. It wasn't really a fiasco. Rested after the Port Vale game. In the week, there was obviously the rumour that potentially Wrexham were in for him. I mean, he's the perfect Wrexham signing. He's 30. He's on high wages. Wrexham would eat that up all day long. Him not starting as captain fuels the rumours a little bit, doesn't he, that he might be out of favour?
Yeah, it feels he's definitely out of favour. I don't think it fuels the rumours any more than they were. That, like, if he'd started, to be honest with you, he's just not started because he hasn't played very well. And it's the right decision.
It's just simple.
No, but like it sounds simple, but the thing is, he's captain, so it takes a bit of balls from BBM to actually put him on the bench when we've got such a young back line of, was it an 18-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and 22-year-old?
Will Fish was the
senior statesman. Yeah. Like that does take courage from a manager, especially so early in the tenure as well. So fair play to him, but I don't think it fuels the rumours anymore. But if I was Callum Chambers, he would have had one eye of like out the door before the season started. 100%. It's just the only thing that was holding him back is that he hasn't played that well recently, and he's on high wages. So who's going to take him? Step up, Wrexham possibly. Because like former international, it fits into the documentary vibe that they go for with their squad. It's like there's a narrative there. And he is a decent footballer on his day if he's put in the right system. It's just not working out for him so far this season. I think in the end of this game, when he did come on, I think you can see the quality there, the passes he can pick out.
Yeah.
But you can't depend on him for 90 minutes at the moment. He's not solid enough. Perhaps with a bit more game time you can, but he's been one of our weaker players in what's been a good start of the season.
Yeah, and I think the Port Vale game showed why at this level he might struggle. And it's because, we talked about it last season. He's not the kind of footballer who's had to play that much kind of defensive football. He's spent time at clubs who play on the front foot. So therefore, when he's under the cosh, he does look a bit more nervous because he's not as used to it as he should be. I also don't think, as much as he's a centre-half and a DM, he's not the kind of combative player that we need sometimes. He's not the guy who's going to fly into headers. He's a bit more physically averse to that kind of game than other players. I also just think it doesn't fit in with what Brian Barry Murphy's trying to do. And I think the fact that he brought Mafiko in, obviously dropped Bagan. I don't think Bagan deserved necessarily to be dropped, but obviously rotating the squad. Mafiko's been knocking on the door and has played in pre-season. The fact that we're sat here talking about, and you've already touched upon it, a defence that was 19, 19, 18 and 22, whatever the ages. Every player was under 22. I mean, Tom, we'll get to it later, but obviously Mafiko came in at fullback. We'll talk about what happened after the half an hour mark, but it just shows really, doesn't it, that we're trusting the young players ahead of those kind of elder statesmen, as it were.
Yeah, he's not frightened of making big decisions and taking risks as well. And like he commented on it after the game about having Chambers and Robinson on the bench and, the influence they have, and they've been great in training and stuff like that. But they're not going to be happy sat on the bench for long, but he's not scared of putting them there. And I think as a fan base, that's what we want to see, because there was too many kind of senior players in inverted commas last exactly that. Yeah, they were passengers, and they knew there's players there who knew they couldn't be dropped because there wasn't many people, like there wasn't loads of players like kind of lining up to take their place. Like we tinkered with the team last year, but they weren't dropped for long periods or anything like that.
No.
Where now you've got 18-year-olds who've never played a minute starting games and stuff. So I think that's a good message to send to the squad, is that if you're not playing, if you're not playing well, you're not playing. And you've got Perry NG, you've got Robertson to come back in. They're far from guaranteed to get back into that team because the players who are playing at the moment are playing well. So I think that's a really good message to send to the squad.
Well, I saw a few Twitter conversations yesterday that mentioned the fact that Perry NG should come back in. I don't see it at the moment. I don't really know within that squad who would you replace for Perry NG at this stage. You're not going to disband Lawler and Puscott after the way they played yesterday. You're not going to put him in instead of Capacchio. And I don't think he can play on the left. So where does Perry NG fit into the way we're playing? I don't think he does.
I think that was my question. So could you play him left? You could. I think like we might as well speak about the Mafiko a bit now. I think you could see he's not quite ready there yet. And I think depending on the game, you're not going to get much attacking impetus from Perry NG if he's playing out of position out there, but he'll be solid. So depending on who you play in, perhaps you could do a job, depending on how you want to play that game. But, with BBM starting Mafiko, fair play to him. And then to take him off was a really, really sensible decision, because he was unlucky with the first yellow, and then he didn't get a second one. And to be honest with you, he's very, very lucky not to get a second yellow, because the second challenge he made was rash. But I think just to mention about the fans, I think the way the fans reacted to that, the standard 100%. Ovation, I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was classy. And it took all the pressure off him. It took all the pressure off the manager as well, to show that, look, we understand what's happening here, and we understand this is not the end for you. It's just an unfortunate situation. You've had a rush of blood to the head. The adrenaline's pumping on your first game. And we're the first to kind of, as a fan base, we make some mental decisions at times, like booing a water break. But I think in that moment, I think the fans could really hold their head up high there. I thought that was a really classy thing to do. And long term, I know that stops some damage that could have been caused for an 18-year-old who's been hauled off early.
Well, that's it. I think in a week where Max Watters managed to get a couple of goals in Europe, the kind of image of him being sat on the bench after Morrison had hooked him kind of came back to light. And it was like, it's the way you make those decisions, isn't it? And I think Morrison, as we spoke to Sean Morrison about it, Morrison did it from a place of being like, I'm in charge, I'm the alpha, I'm going to show you what's up here. Brian Barry Murphy did it from a place of being like, I'm going to protect this player because it's not what he needs on his debut, right? It could easily switch. If he does, he talked about in the post-match press conference, it wasn't something that, Mafiko isn't a natural left back. He played there because there was a need, because Bagan had been struggling with chest pains in the week. He's a 6 normally, but he played at left back in pre-season, and he's the only option we really have there at the moment. he was against a dangerous attacker. He did get a booking, and Brian Barry Murphy protected him. And I think the fact that, like you say, the fans reacted was it Callum Robinson got out and went over to him and made sure that he was okay. Dylan Lawler did the same. As he was walking past, he ran over, and that shows a cool head on someone like Dylan Lawler. And I think the way it happened and the way Brian Barry Murphy talked about it after the game showed that there's a different feel around the football club. And all of a sudden, we're all of a sudden a different fan base because we, like you say, we're more encouraging, we're more appreciative of what's going on the pitch.
I think that could be a huge moment. I think kind of putting the stamp on this new squad. Like you said,
100%.
There's a new feel about, like, everything went right in that moment. He's been taken off, which could be an absolute nightmare. But like you said, you're seeing leaders like Lawler step up. The fans understand it. The manager then the comments post-match were absolutely on point. And we've come out of this with loads of positives instead of negatives. And that's where the shift has been at the beginning of this season so far.
Yeah.
Is we've got a manager who does sensible things. It doesn't say absolutely wild things in press conferences. He doesn't have he has an ego, but not in an unhealthy way. He's just very confident in the decisions that he's making. And I think he's just got a bit of empathy. I think he's just
a human being,
maniac.
isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a human being.
And I think we've just lacked kind of managers with kind of just the social side of it at times, of knowing when to say things, how to say it, and how to deal with players. And I think that man management side of it has been huge so far because he's managing those senior players who seem to be still buying into it. And he's bringing the best so far out of those young players. So long may it continue because, it's working an absolute treat at the moment.
Well, I mean, that's it, right? When you look at the managers we've had in previous years, they seem to be averse to playing any sort of youth and being averse to putting youth in when we really needed it. We started the season, as you know, when that was the first game of the season, our starting lineup was 22 as an average age. Our defence is getting younger, game on game. We saw Matt Turner thrown in at the deep end to start with, and obviously Trott's come in now, but Matt Turner will have learnt loads from that. And I just think that just bodes well for everything that's going to happen this season. And I think it's the fact that we're here 3 games into the season, 4 games including the EFL Cup. There's not, Port Vale was pretty bad, but we came away from that with a point, and we would have learnt a lot from that game. But we're sat here now, and it feels like a completely new club already because we're sat here able to talk about performance where we absolutely dominated another side. People could say Rotherham are a bad side. They're a pretty average League One side. But if they're the average and they're a team who are going to finish anywhere in the mid-table kind of region, if we can just absolutely dominate teams like that, then it bodes well for the season. And I think it bodes well for the fan base as well because we're all of a sudden able to be positive. A 3-0 win against Rotherham at home. I think if we'd played Rotherham last season, under Errol Bullock, we went to Rotherham and lost 5-2, and we looked like a completely different side. This season, we're beating them at home 3-0, and we're barely getting out of second gear. And that just feels so good, doesn't it, Tom? Because we're able to sit here as a fan base. And on this podcast, if you listened to every episode last season, then I'd feel sorry for you. But if you did, you'd have heard how negative we got. But we're able to sit here now and think, God, the sky's the limit with this team.
We've been very lucky with the way the fixtures have fallen. There's no doubt about that. And we got very lucky with the Port Vale game that we got away with a point. But I think we're in a better position now being on 7 points with that dodgy Port Vale performance than we would have been on 9 points if we'd gone to Port Vale and won like a scrappy game. I think we've come through a test and got a point out of it. We've won 2 games fairly comfortably at home. Rotherham, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the relegation mix after watching them yesterday.
After that, yeah.
They had absolutely nothing. They had Hugh Gill up top, who was just running around after lost causes because they couldn't get the ball to him. They just didn't have an attacking outlet all game. But saying that young defence that we've got dealt with everything that was thrown at them. They were trying to play the ball long and direct, thinking they could bully us, and they didn't bully us. We cleared absolutely everything. They didn't have a shot on goal till the 86th minute. And they didn't look like they were going to get in the game at any point. And me and you were speaking before we pressed record on this. And I can't think of a more comfortable performance and win since probably the Dave Jones era.
I was thinking that.
And that's great to see. Granted, we're a league lower than we have been for 22, 23 years. But I don't care. Because once you're watching a game, it doesn't matter what league you're in. You just want to enjoy it and enjoy the performances. And those performances are there at the moment. And like you said, it does feel like a completely new club. We're playing front foot football. That's quite hard to say.
Yeah, front foot football.
Blah, 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 blah. But when I know there's some people moaning about that there's just pointless passing, but there's not. we're passing the ball along the back. We're going backwards when we need to, but we're playing diagonal balls when we need to. We're going direct when we need to. We're putting the ball into the box, and we're mixing it up. And teams can't live with us at the moment. And like you said, we didn't get out of second gear. There was part of me at the end of that game that was thinking, it's a pity we didn't put 5 on them, because when we went 2-0 up, they were there for the taking.
We could, if we turned the screw, and if we turned the screw and then doubled down on everything we were doing, then we could have won 3 or 4, 5-0. But I think I almost think it's good that we recognised that they weren't, and we could kind of, I don't know if it's good or bad, but the fact that we won 3-0, we're able to take our foot off the gas a little bit and, ahead of a big week is probably a good thing, right? We've got 2 games coming up. We don't have to go full pelt for 90 minutes. We can relax a little bit and kind of take the foot off the gas. That's fine by me, as long as we don't then switch off and do something stupid. And we didn't. And I think that's another difference between this team and last year. There were times last season where we could not, times over the last few seasons where protecting a lead felt like an alien concept. This season, we went through, we've gone 3-0 up. The team have made, I'm looking at the stats in front of me. I'm going to have to look this up. But I don't know when the last time we made close to 600 accurate passes was. We made 596 accurate passes yesterday. We're going to have to go back to the Dave Jones era for that, because it definitely didn't happen under Bullet or Reza. It definitely didn't happen under Warnock. But the fact that we're able to do that and still win the game 3-0, and as you said, there were moments yesterday when you watch back the highlights, there's passing moves where we make 4 passes and we've gone from left back to the striker. And we've just done it so easily. It's a completely different team. I still can't quite get my head around how different it is.
Yeah, and it's a different team with players that were already at the club.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most encouraging thing, right? This is the youth kind of coming through with, 25 days of training?
Yeah.
And we're already transformed the way we've played.
Exactly.
And I think that's remarkable. And it shows there's more to come. And we left goals out there, but we took a foot off the gas, but we didn't drop our attacking intent while we did it. We were still trying to get the ball forward. There was just a little bit less energy because we didn't need to expend it. But it was honestly an absolute pleasure to watch. And there's not many times over the last probably 6-7 years where you could say that. And the fans were giving it the Olays after 62 minutes, I think it was, which is hilarious.
Getting ahead of ourselves.
And I think the Rotherham, their heads were going. They started to fly into challenges a little bit. I think apart from they're the one young lad, I think his name's Gore, who they've got from Man United, who looked decent, and we must have fouled him a dozen times in that game, kept cropping him, which was quite funny. Outside of him, they had nothing, but we made them look poor. And we've said a number of times already this season that we're going to be inconsistent, but I don't mind us being inconsistent if we put a performance like that together every 3 games, because it was so good to watch. And there were still passes that went astray, but there was moments in that game that we looked absolutely sublime. And there will be 15,000 Cardiff fans, or however many, but 17,000 in total was near the ground, who will be leaving with a smile on their face. And that hasn't been a sure thing for a long time.
No, and I think, we'll talk about the goals. And I think, we've kind of jumped around a little bit talking about this game, but I think it's when you look at the goals we scored, one was a set piece. Obviously, Salek got his first goal of the season from a corner that was whipped across. And that was just, you could talk about their defending for that, but Salek just did what Salek does. He bullied a defender, got through, and he was able to head it in. Ashford's goal was lovely, and it was a really well-worked move. And then the goal that Colwell scored as well, we put it wide, put it back across. It's really simple stuff, but it was the stuff we weren't doing last season. And I think that was the thing, wasn't it? When you look back to last season to this season, we're already scoring a variance of goals that we didn't have last season. When was the last time we scored a screamer like Ruben Colwell did against Peterborough? I can't remember the last time we even scored a direct free kick. I think when we talk about the goals that Salek scored today, we made so many comments last season about how we didn't score many goals from set pieces. The Gutas header against Swansea stood out because it felt so rare last season. Even though if you look at the stats, we scored about 11 goals from set pieces last season, but it did feel a lot rarer. And we're already getting back to what Cardiff City is about, which is those kind of set piece goals, but we're adding those better goals alongside it. We could talk about Ashford's goal. That was such a lovely move, wasn't it? When you think of what the ball went centrally, Salek held it up, Di Turnbull's touch back into Ashford was, it reminded me of Ramsey against the Jacks all those years ago when he set up Bellamy strike. He just feather touched it back, and Ashford was able to just strike it home. I can't remember scoring many goals like that last season. Can you?
No, definitely not. It's the weight on the touch. It was lovely. It just meant that Ashford could run onto it and bend it into that far corner. He didn't have to put his laces through or anything. It was guided into that corner, and it was just so well worked. And we were having moments like that all game in and around the
All
box.
game.
And like I said, like there's moments where it didn't come off. And there were, I think, after say 20 minutes, there's a little bit of fear in where a little bit of fear there that we're like, oh, we're not going to break them down. But as soon as that first goal came, we knew there was going to be more. And I think there's going to be games like that this season where we're going to absolutely blow away teams, where we haven't been able to do that. But to see the goals being spread around as well, like that Ashford goal was beautiful. But I think it's huge that Salek's off the mark.
100%. That's his confidence up, isn't it?
100%. Like he would have been waiting for that. And you could see a bit of frustration and relief, I think, from him after that by shunting the ball that's on the cone straight into the crowd, which Colwill did after his goal as well. They are perfectly
Colwill's is a bit more cultured.
Yeah, you can see the different types of player there. But if you score a goal and you turn around and you see a ball just balanced on a cone, you can't.
You're going to kick it. You're going to kick it
into the But I think Salek getting off the mark with like a trademark header. Ashford scoring that goal and then a tap into the back post from Colwill is a lovely mix of goals. And it shows how kind of versatile we are now. We're spreading the goals around the team and we're putting unbelievable passages of play together. So it's hard not to get excited. Like you can only beat the team in front of you, but we beat them well. And it was super, super convincing.
I'm just looking at the times that we scored our goals this season. Ruben Colwill and Capacchio's goals against Peterborough, 48 and 60 minutes. Against Swindon, obviously the first goal was 21, but the second goal was 45, the 47th minute. Then yesterday's goals were the 43rd, 50th, 55th, and 60th minute. We're kind of, it feels like we're in a position as a team where we're spending 30 to 40 minutes building up to play, and then we seem to strike in that middle portion of the game where the pressure's kind of built up. And I think that's what Brian Barry Murphy's trying to do, right? We're pressing really well. We're being patient as a team. We're working the ball really well. And when you're playing teams like Rotherham, Peterborough, the pressure can only build so much before it tells, right? And it feels like that's what's happening this season. If we're scoring the goals in the same sort of times, when you look at Capacchio's goal and Ashford's goals, they were quite similar in the way that the ball went wide and then was fed back to that corner of the box and we struck it in the way we did. Obviously, Ashford's was an in-swinger, Capacchio's was an out-swinger. But you can see patterns of play developing and patterns in the way that we're striking when it comes to scoring those goals. And I think if that's the case, then we're going to see patterns of play as fans developing. Obviously, there's going to need to be a bit more patience. I think people, when we don't score within 20 minutes, 25 minutes, fans do get a little bit impatient, especially when you're dominating games. But if we're building to a point where pressure tells and we're doing that consistently, then we know what's going to happen as fans. And that's going to settle us down even a little bit more. Because I think, look, I've got no complaints about yesterday's game. I don't think you've got any complaints after yesterday's game, but there might be some comments about wastefulness. There might be some comments about the fact it did take us a while to score. But it's all stuff that only means good for the football club, right? I think the fact we created so many chances yesterday, we didn't score some of them. I think there was a Salek header that bounced up that you could have scored. I think when you look back, we probably could have had 2 penalties. So it probably could have been 5-0 if we'd been given those penalties. But the fact we can sit here and say those penalties don't matter because we scored 3 other really good goals is a sign of how this team is changing, isn't it? And it's changing for the good. I mean, was there anything yesterday for you that stood out as a negative? I did a kind of tongue-in-cheek tweet about there was still plenty of time for negatives after Colwill's goal. I watched it back a few times this morning. I can't see anything there that would make me go, well, we should criticise that. Can you?
No, there's going to be moments where we make mistakes in games. And thankfully now we're in League One. We can make the odd mistake. And
other
probably
teams
not
are shit.
That's the reality. Like, we can make a little bit more mistakes than we did in the Championship without getting punished. And we will get punished from time to time. There's no doubt about it. But in the game yesterday, like, yeah, we scored. We're scoring when we're scoring because we're feeling our way into games, like you're saying. And like the longer the season goes on, I'm sure we'll start scoring goals earlier. But I think we've got a bit of a learning curve as a fan base as well, because you're still hearing those groans at the moment when the ball's going backwards or from side to side. But we're moving from side to side to look for those gaps, and those gaps are coming. And the longer the games go on, the more the gaps come. And we've got a young, fit side, and we're just going to exploit these teams, and that's what we've done so far this season. And I think there's so many more like kind of unseen positives rather than there being negatives. Like the work rate of Colwill,
100%.
like he doesn't stop. Like I think before hearing the thing about him being the best of the bleep test, I wouldn't have like linked him to being one of like the fit players in the team who puts the running in. But like that bleep test for some reason has made me watch him more and see the off ball that he does, he doesn't stop, man. Like, it's just back and forth all the time. And to have that youthfulness, to have that desire from these players, we're just gonna find those moments to cut through teams. We can be wasteful at times because we'll have more chances later in the game. We're going to be frustrating at times, but we're fun to watch in the moment. And yeah, I don't have any negatives. And I think, like, after the Port Vale game, there was a little bit of concern about us at the back. And granted that Rotherham didn't test us, but we've got that young defence who cleared aerial ball after aerial ball against Rotherham with no problem whatsoever. They weren't kind of overawed by like the physicality of like Hugh Gill, even Mafiko did a number on him as well, shuffling the ball out of play and winning a free kick from him early doors. And if you've got players doing that at this stage of the season, they're only going to get stronger. They're only going to get more used to football at this level. I think it's really, really positive place to be.
I was going to say, I think when you look back at last season, the amount of times we lost games just because we gave it away stupidly or let them have the ball and just kind of tried to absorb the pressure. What we're doing now is keeping the ball away from them so we don't have to absorb that pressure. If we have the ball, they can't hurt us. And I think, when we got promoted, 2018 under Neil Warnock, we were very anti-tiki-taka because Fulham used to knock it around the back and not give the ball away. Well, we were very direct. But I think the game has evolved now to the point where we're doing what needs to be done, which is keep the ball away from them. As long as you have the ball, they can't hurt you. And we're working it so well. As you said earlier, the amount of times yesterday where there was a 4-pass counter-attack where we ended up from left back to the penalty area in less than 5 seconds. That wouldn't have happened last season. There were times where Puscott is playing the long ball diags over the top. We haven't lost the long ball game. We haven't lost the ability to do that. But we're picking the right times to do it, which is then more effective. And I think that's the thing. And I think that's what we're seeing is intelligent football for once, rather than just... last season, there was barely a brain in that football team when you think about it. And I think that came down from the coaching, right? We were set up all the wrong ways. This season, we're set up in the right ways. And your point about Colwell, it comes back to what Errol Bullitt said 2 years ago, right? Errol Bullitt was like, Colwell needs to learn the defensive side of the game before he can be an effective player for this team. I do think that's had an impact, but I think what we're seeing this season is Brian Barry Murphy is trusting him more to do the attacking stuff, knowing that Colwell will come back when he needs to. He doesn't need to have it beaten into him. He doesn't need to be told you can't do that because you need to do this. It's just a case of saying, well, if you do that, I trust you to do the rest. And that's what we're seeing with Colwell now. And I think the captaincy has probably kind of put his head on his shoulders a little bit more. It probably has matured him a little bit more overnight. But I just think, I wrote it in the agenda, we're just seeing Colwell thrive at the moment. 3 games, 3 goals, 2 free kicks. Yesterday's was a lovely run to the back post. He's involved in everything good. And I think that's just really fantastic to see. And I think it's testament to what BBM's doing that's happening already this season. I had a look at the stats from yesterday's game. Obviously, Di Turnbull got man of the match. We've barely talked about Di Turnbull. Obviously, missed a game earlier this season because of a kind of internal disciplinary issue, but he was at the centre of everything yesterday, wasn't he? And it's great to see him just slot in because he's starting to look like the player that a lot of fans thought he could be.
Yeah, I thought him and Wintle were magnificent, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I thought,
and Wintle back to being underrated.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were the right type of old heads in that young team yesterday, and I thought they were brilliant. They allow Colwell to do what he needs to do because they did some real hard yards, but they were patient on the ball. They unlocked some like beautiful passes through as well. And we mentioned Turnbull set up the goal earlier on as well. But like, I thought it was a great performance by everyone across the park. And like I said earlier on, these aren't new players. These are players that were here last year. It's just we've now got a manager who knows how to use them. And it's players who are buying into what he's saying. You can see the comments from Bagan after the game about we're learning under BBM. And I'm sure they are, because we weren't learning off Omar Reza. There's no doubt about it. Do you know what I mean?
What could that man teach us that we didn't already know?
Yeah, and like, he's been on podcasts and he's made comments since saying that he still reckons he could have kept us up. Like, he's delusional. At least we've got a manager now who he knows the players he's got in the squad. He knows how to utilize them. And I'm just excited because, like, Turnbull, like, I think he could be the player that we thought he was going to be when he came in. And to be fair, as a fan base, we've been fairly patient with it as well.
Yeah.
We're there still chanting his name. We've turned on other players. We haven't turned on Turnbull.
No, we haven't turned on Turnbull.
No. And it's nice to see. Willock we've turned on. But like Turnbull, I think there's something there that I think is because we've got this like affinity to Scottish players
100%.
at Cardiff that I think all of us just want another one of them. And we want him to be your Gavin Rays, your Chris Burks, your Kev McNaughtons. Like,
Yeah.
we want him to be another one of them. And I think he could be for us this season. I think with the youth around him, I think we're only a couple of games away from a thunder bastard from Di Turnbull. And I think that will really take off. His season will take off after that moment.
Before we move on to Twitter, because there's a lot of Twitter questions that we can pick up on. Who had the most passes for us as an individual yesterday? Tom, who are you guessing?
Wasn't Will Fish?
Close. Will Fish was second with 97 passes. Dylan Lawler top with 103 successful passes. That is 5 times as many as the highest Rotherham player, who had 18. When you look down the pass successes from the Cardiff City team. Now, I remember games under Neil Warnock where we made 118 passes as a team. Dylan Lawler, 103. William Fish, Will Puscott, 97. So between those two players, that's 200 successful passes alone. Wintle, 79. Turnbull, 61. Capaccio, 53. Bagan, 53. Colwell, 31. Ashford, 20. Nathan Trott, 20. And then Mafiko at 18. That's the top 10 key successful passes by players. I mean, that just shows the evolution that we're undergoing under Big BBM. In terms of touches, Fish and Dylan Lawler, 118 and 115 touches each. That would include headers and things like that. Colwell, top of the shots. Expected goals, Salick, 0.79. And chances created, Di Turnbull, 4. And even Callum Robinson, when he came on, created 2 chances. Those stats feel so alien compared to last season when players were barely touching the ball, barely passing the ball. 200 passes between our centre-backs. It's all changed here at the CCS, isn't it?
Yeah, you got Bagan mentioned there, and he didn't even start.
No,
and
it's just
Bagan. But like I said earlier on, it's not just passing for passing's sake. There's intent. And I think that's the thing, right? We've taken the piss out of teams in the past for having centre-backs just passing between them. It doesn't feel like that at the moment. There may be spells where we do that, where we're trying to get back in the game. Rotherham had a little bit of a spell, probably after about quarter of an hour, where they had the foot of the ball for a little bit. And then we played ourselves back into the game. And that's needed at times. But, there's just intent there. We get the ball forward. We pass it back. We know when to pass the ball forward. We know when the gaps are there. And that's the bit I'm excited by. And we've got youngsters there like Lawler. He looks like he's been playing for years. He had a couple of moments in the Peterborough game where he looked a little bit dodgy. I think Port Vale as well. But you can forgive him that. I thought he was absolutely outstanding against Rotherham. And he's just calm on the ball. He's not afraid to turn out. He's under pressure. He'll keep the ball at his feet. He's not just lumping it for the sake of it. He carries on playing. And I think that's the exciting thing. We don't just sacrifice plan A when there's a bit of panic. We stick with it. And I think that's the thing that's exciting me the most.
I think when you look at his stats as well, when you break it down, he was 7.7 on FOTMob, please sponsor us, as a centre-half. He attempted 106 passes. 103 of those were accurate. That's a 97% passing rate. He had 11 passes into the final third, which is quite insane for a centre-half. But also the key thing is, when you look at his defensive stats as well, he won the most duels in the match. 4 out of his 4 aerial duels he won, and he won 2 out of 5 on the floor. He was fouled a couple times. He knew when to foul properly, and he also made 5 recoveries and 1 interception, as well as 4 clearances. He's doing both sides of the game, which is, we've in the past we've had centre halves like Callum Chambers, right? Callum Chambers is a very good footballer, but sometimes struggles with the defensive side of the game. In previous years, we've had people like Ben Turner. Love Ben Turner. Will not hear any criticism about him, but he was a clogger. Could win every header, could win every tackle, and would diag it 60 yards every time. But you couldn't necessarily play football in the way that Lawler does. Lawler is like that hybrid centre-half that we've never really had before, and he's 19 years old. He could be our hybrid centre-half for the next 15 years if we really wanted him to be. But, it's his first season. Let's not get too far away from it. But if he can stay with us over the next couple of years, I could see him potentially moving to the Premier League. I just think he's that good.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think this is the first time in a long time where we've got players who people will come looking at, where they've got resale value. And that's both exciting and petrifying at the same time, because our squad could easily be decimated because we've got a lot of young talent there. But, it's our academy finally coming to fruition. It's the patience that we've had. We've improved that. We've improved it. And it's working out for us. So it's hard not to get excited when you see those Welsh flags next to the names and flash score and apps like that. And it's just just to see, and please sponsor us. And I think Ashford scored a couple of goals already. I think that's huge. And we've still got Isaac Davis to hit the ground running as well. Look, I'm just repeating myself, but I am just really excited by this. And we've just got to make sure we don't get too carried away when we lose a game. Because we will sooner rather than later. We've got some tough fixtures coming up. But like, if we keep putting teams like this to the sword at home, which I think is the main thing.
It's your home wins, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a good atmosphere at home at the moment. There's new songs. To be fair, it's that perfect time of year where there's still hope and there's nice weather. Yeah. And like we
it's the summer holidays.
Yeah, we quickly lose hope normally, but we haven't lost it yet. So let's build on that. Let's make sure it was a fortress at home because it's a fun place to be at CCS when the football's good.
Exactly that. Let's move on to Twitter. And also, I wish Ben Price was here. With usually the pessimist among us, he couldn't help but be optimist about what's going on. We were speaking to him yesterday in our group WhatsApp chat, and I should stress he is absolutely fine at the moment. He's just got some health stuff that he needs to attend to over the next few weeks, and he should be back then. He was talking about we have been very good at football today. The little layoff from Turnbull was just set to be hit. It was a great goal. Feels like we scored more screamers in the last few games than we did in the last 2 seasons combined. It's all good. Even Ben Price is excited. Let's go over to Twitter. Twitter.com/the Ninian. Ryan Chard. 3 tweets, Ryan. Bit greedy. But I will... you talked about Mafiko in the first one. We've already talked about that. You said we played really well. Delivery was so much better than in Port Vale, brackets where. Still didn't feel confident we'd get a shot off, but if we could score goals like those in every game, I'd take that, please, and thank you. Atmosphere fell flat after 70 minutes. What was that about? It's like we've forgotten how to act when our team has dominated and run away with the game. Hopefully we'll get to remember how to make some noise in those situations as we go on. It is true, isn't it, Tom? It's still relatively new to us that we're running away with games like that. I think we only did it against Swansea last season. The rest of the time, it was very nervy, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think like the team, I think the fans are conserving energy for the battles ahead. So it is hard to get excited when you're absolutely battering the team like we were against Rotherham. Like they just didn't have a look in. There was no competitiveness to it. So, at that point, you're thinking, oh, do I go down to the bar because this is kind of done? And you can't blame the fans to be kind of already drifted off to what they're going to do post-match at that stage.
The Ninian Mike says, sun out, Rotherham licked up Rastafari. Salek scoring, all for youth in the squad, but it feels illegal to be starting players who were born when these songs were number one. Capaccio, Rihanna, Umbrella, Lawler, some Shane Ward shite, and Mafiko, take that patience. I'm off for Werther's originals. Thomas Taylor, great result and performance that puts us in a good place going into 2 tricky away games. Got a feel for Mafiko, but no doubt he'll bounce back. It was a very mature call from BBM and the right one, which is a good sign. Matthew James Ali, great win and a dominant performance. Rotherham, easily the worst side to come to the CCS since, well, Rotherham. Great reaction from the fans to the Mafiko sub, but that BBM's Barmy Army chant can respectfully get in the bin. It's Barry Murphy or nothing. Barry Murphy's Barmy Army, Tom, do you agree?
Yeah, as long as it's a Barmy Army, I don't really care what comes before it. But yeah, it does flow. I think, BBM just
Barry
sounds
Murphy's
odd. I think that's a
Army,
chance.
Yeah.
I'm conscious. I don't think I've ever said his full name because I'm scared of getting it wrong.
Well, so go on. Now's your chance.
No, not doing it. I'm not being forced. I'll let it come naturally to me over the next couple of weeks.
Well, I've got it wrong on Radio Wales a couple of times already. So, listen, I've got no shame about it. Brian Murphy's the man. Richard Endicott, does BBM realise the club shop is open to get his matchday stash? I think he looks very natty in his little tracksuit t-shirt combo. I'll be interested to see what happens when the winter comes. But I know Di Hunt's probably got his eyes on that jacket already. You'll buy it off him and get him to sign it. MJCCFC, as dominant as it gets, they went direct and it didn't work once, which shows how far we've come since Vale already. The best thing is that realistically, we still have high levels to reach. Hopefully, can quieten those doom and gloomers. Gigi the Bluebird, the sun is shining, comfortable 3-0 win, and everybody goes home happy. An excellent day. One thing I hope we settle on the back four as soon, as constantly changing our defence was a weakness of ours last season. Neil White says, thought Wintle and Turnbull controlled the midfield today. Their experience told, both full of running and energy. Ian Evans has just sent us a photo of Superb off Facebook. Mike Jenkins, totally dominant performance. Felt sorry for Mafiko, out of position, struggled. Is Giles injured? Ashford growing in confidence and Turnbull at last looking a baller. Aidan Jones, dominant from start to finish. Only criticism is it should have been more. How nice is that to say after a 3-0 home win? Giggsy, I might have got my Joel and Ruben prediction wrong, but what a lovely way to get it wrong. Set pieces and other deliveries into the box are great. Something to Salek to feed on. 2 missed penalties by the official. Off to enjoy some Spanish sun for the family for a week. Ole. Bluebirds passed, and this was my point earlier, Tom. Can you ever remember us having 75% possession in a game? Rotherham were awful, but we completely dominated them in every aspect. you'd be going back to Dave Jones for that, wouldn't you? Because even under Malky, we didn't necessarily dominate possession every week.
No, we haven't been a possession team for a long, long time. Even when we've been winning leagues and getting promoted and stuff, that wasn't the way we did it. That was a lot of 1-0s and hard graft. So this is like a completely. There'd be plenty of fans there, young fans who've never seen us keep the ball like this.
No.
It'd be completely alien to them. So yeah, it's been a long, long time since we played like that.
Lazy Face says one of the most complete performances for a long time. Just happy to be enjoying watching Cardiff City play and having it on in the background while doing something else. Loyal 1927. Based on today, does Perry get back in the team? And if so, what position? As you said earlier, the only place I could see it is left back. Capaccio is one of the first names on the team sheet at the moment. I'm not disrupting Fish, Lawler at this rate. And if we need cover at left back, I still don't necessarily think he gets ahead of Bagan at the moment. I think Bagan is proving himself to be pretty dependable at left back, but if we want to put him in somewhere there, but I just, Tom, over the last few seasons, we've relied on someone like NG to kind of do something, whether it's score a free kick, whether it's kick someone up in the air, be a bit of a shit house. I just don't know if we need that anymore.
I think it might be more needed now than before because he was doing that. It was almost like petulance, right? Because things weren't going right. I think having that little bit of edge, NG, I think it's handy to have that bit of edge there. I think where it's been petulant in the past, I think that little bit of edge in a young squad could be quite handy. And it doesn't have to be every game. There's just going to be the odd game like Port Vale, for example, where we were bullied at times and they came straight through us. So having a character like Perry NG could be quite helpful. And in terms of where he fits in, I suppose we can't rule out that Capaccio can't move to the other side because I've seen nothing but him being just so composed on the ball at the moment. And I think he could do that anywhere on the park. And he's just growing in confidence. So it might not be a case of where can we fit Perry NG. We might be able to move people around to fit him in. I wouldn't want to do that because, like you said, why would you want to upset him when it's working so well at the moment? Because let's not forget, we've only conceded 1 goal this season with our defence. None from open play. And that's the lowest amount. That's the lowest amount of goals conceded by any team in our league at the moment. This team's been tonked all over the place and we're not one of them. So yeah, it's hard for him to get back in, but I think there's definitely a place for him in this squad and an old head around the youthful side that we've got.
Amar Ohid says, best start since 2017-18. BBM ball in full effect today. Hopefully we turn the CCS into a fortress again. Cole Marshy says, are we going to score a belter every week? Adam Matthew, the defence was absolutely solid today. Love lady to thank. I do love ladies. Their first shot didn't come until the 85th minute. Madness. I love it. You and Barber played really well, but Rotherham are a poor side. Rodri, shout out to the blokes behind me who booed the water break. Quadruple is on. League One, FA Cup, League Cup, and Virtue Trophy, that is. Matt CCFC says, dominant today. Can't remember a more comfortable performance. Not getting too carried away yet. Rotherham were poor, but there will be games where we struggle and games like today throughout the season. But a few signings inside the next week or two and we'll be looking good. Scholar Poe says, cohesive as fuck, creative too. I've missed this feeling. Glass half full again. Di Richards, our Las Vegas correspondent, says, patience, patience, patience. We saw the plan in action yesterday. Really enjoyable watch. Also really enjoying the BBM's presses. He's so controlled or honest, all very refreshing. Stefan Prince, my dad was frustrated that we took off the gas after the third goal. 1 or 2 more wins, and I'm sure he'll start dreaming again. Old habits die hard, and the pessimism from last season will soon fade. In all, a great start from BBM. Gareth Knight, superb from start to finish. Fish, Turnbull, Colwell, Salek, all in capitals, has to be the spine of the team going forward. I'm here for people enjoying Wick Puskod. I've got a sneaky suspicion he's future captain material. I've been saying it since last season. I think Fish could be the kind of linchpin in that defence while the youth kind of rotate around him for the next 3 or 4 seasons. David Charles, a controlled team performance, decisive management by BBM to bring on Bagan, Capaccio outstanding, 2 goals in open play, and our side able to adjust tactics to overwhelm the opposition. We should be able to do this to most teams who play this season. And great fan support. Ross said, are we worried that Colwell's doing too well before deadline day? No, we'll keep that quiet. Utah Jazz Fans UK has just sent us HMS Piss the League. Lee Sanders saying, I really wanted to get Salad off the mark. A couple more Port Vale performances where he stood there, starved of the ball, and we risked him giving his agent a quick call before the deadline. Perry's fan account, you're going to have to change that name soon. Genuinely, I could have cried after that. If we get 2 to 3 quality signings in, we have to be favourites for the title, providing a Ruben or Salic doesn't leave now. Sven says we're winning the league, but you all know that. Loved the 4-minute pie chat last week. Let's continue with the food theme. Death Row 3-course meal. Go, go, go. Tom, Death Row 3-course meal.
Oh, French onion soup to start.
Whoa, cultured.
I reckon. And then I'd go for a chicken dansak.
Nice.
I reckon. Oh, God, I feel sorry for these death row guards after the curry and soup combination while I've been electrocuted or hung.
Dessert?
And then a lemon cheesecake. What about you?
I think I would go. I'm just going to kind of gerrymander it to
Chicken
what I
wings.
want. Well, no,
What
I
did
was
you
going to
go
go
for?
like a barbecue platter to start, like pulled pork, ribs,
Okay.
brisket, Texas toast, maybe some cornbread, that kind of thing. For main course, a fuckload of sushi, just like the best sushi I can get. And then for dessert,
Okay.
it would be something like a cheesecake, like a chocolate cheesecake, or maybe like a raspberry and white chocolate cheesecake. To drink,
We've come out of that quite wanky, haven't we? Both of us, I think.
we have.
Yeah.
I mean, French onion soup. I didn't expect that. And then to drink, I'd have like a Mountain Dew, just like a really sugary
we're
Mountain
back.
Dew.
We're back. That's fine.
What would you have to drink?
Oh, brain's dark.
Ah, yeah, lovely pint of brains dark.
Yeah.
I'd have said that as well, but I don't drink anymore. Alex Bennett, getting a bit bored of people in the ground moaning about us not shooting on sight. People need to get used to the fact we're going to pass it most of the time and force angles. Then the common bluebird says, just wondering if the guy who kept yelling, get on with it in the early stages, feels it was sufficiently got on with by the end of the game. Oliver Rees says a few good signings from being real contenders. Ellis says Die De Bruyne. Bluebird John, great day for City youngsters, and Wrexham losing is a massive bonus. Their lager is shit as well. I mean, fine. Their fans will be wondering why they're getting astray on here. Adam, but please sign Callum Chambers if you listen. Adam Matthew, also their manager, is 4 years younger than BBM. Jeez, yeah. Tom BBM, almost 50. He looks good for it.
Shut up, is he? I genuinely didn't realise he's almost 50.
47, I think. 47.
I thought he was a late 30s man. I just haven't paid any attention to his age because now, like, I've ticked over 30, so I don't care anymore. I don't look at ages.
Oh no, I don't care either. But he looks really good for 47.
Ridiculously good. Yeah, fair play to the bloke.
Good head of hair on him. Good gwaft. Ronnie Morgan, just brilliant. Adam Tibbs, how do Rotherham manage to be the worst team at the CCS every single year they visit? It's quite an achievement. Ryan W. CCFC, I can see where this tweet's coming from. Wintle is different gravy. Is that Ryan Wintle's burner account? Perhaps it is. Ella Espanola, Chambers dropped, voila. And Crystal Watts says, best performance since God knows when. Win the home games and the rest will fall into place. I'm just checking if that is the real Ryan Wintle. Picture doesn't look like him. But if you can confirm Ryan WCCFC, let us know. Twitter.com/VFT Ninian. Right. Let's talk about the rest of the league before we talk about Wimbledon and Luton. Looking around the league yesterday, Tom, you know, we're up there. I think we're in second as the table stands. We're unbeaten in the 3 games we played, 2 wins and a draw, 7 points. We've only conceded 1 goal. Yesterday, when you looked around the league, you looked at teams like Luton going to Bradford. You looked at potentially Huddersfield going to Blackpool. Stockport were at Leyton Orient, and you thought they're going to pick up points here. But it feels like even already teams are tripping up. I know it's 3 games into the season. There's 43 games of football still to come. It's a long way to go, but it's heartening, isn't it, that other teams have already tripped up. You know, Huddersfield have spent millions this summer, and they went away to Blackpool yesterday and even lost to 10 men. Luton went to Bradford. Bradford obviously came up, perhaps not one of the favourites in this league, but beat them 2-1. It's good for us at this stage, but it's also worrying, isn't it, that there are times this season where we know we're going to trip up.
We have tripped up once, I suppose, Paul Vale, and got away with it, right? I think, yeah, exactly. I think there's definitely going to be weeks where we're going to lose to a team we should beat. There's no doubt about it. I think the games are coming thick and fast at the moment, which is working in our favour. I think the more we build this momentum, great. Let's keep the games coming. But it's going to be a tough league. It's relentless. I think mentioned last week and it's carried on again. Plymouth, exactly the same boat as us coming down.
And, sorry, Aaron Hopkin, if you're listening.
Yeah, you might as well listen to us for some upbeat stuff because they've been absolutely atrocious so far this year. But we're second from second in the league. They're second from bottom, and you know that could have easily been us. There's no doubt about it. But we're playing well, so we shouldn't take our start for granted. And I think the points on the board is huge because like we're going to lose games and we're going to lose them soon. And it's good to have that advantage, but it is heartening to see the likes of Luton, who some people have tipped to absolutely run away with this league, and they still could. There's no doubt about it. But seeing them lose already, great, because there'll be certain people like Luton fans who are probably thinking, "Oh, we wouldn't be far off an unbeaten season and stuff in this league." Because there are some teams in this league that you're thinking, like the likes of Rotherham, right? Like you said, a lot of people think they'll finish mid-table. If that is mid-table in this league, we're going to batter some teams because that is poor. So, seeing the points shared out already, Stockport losing a 2-0 lead to draw with Orient, fantastic. Keep them coming.
Plymouth are 3 games in. They've conceded 8 goals, the second most in the division. Blackpool have conceded the most with 9. We've conceded the least with 1 goal. Obviously, we've scored 5, so we're kind of in the average for the amount of goals scored. Last season, we finished the season conceding 73 goals. The fact that we've already seen the signs of our defence being shored up with all the young players coming in. The fact that we are scoring more goals, we're scoring belters, we're scoring goals from open play, we're getting back to kind of being set pieces. I just don't think it's enough acknowledged that it's just really exciting at the moment that we seem to be going through that evolution. We talked about it in light of the Rotherham game, but I think we're seeing what we've been crying out for as a fan base for the last 10 years. You know, when we went from Warnock to Harris, it felt like that was when we might see the evolution. But then it kind of went straight back to McCarthy and went back to what we had over the last couple of seasons with Bullet and Reza. But it feels like we're finally seeing the evolution that we've all cried out for. And if it's successful while we do it, Tom, then I let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I think we're 3 games into the season, but we're set up for a really exciting season at this stage, aren't we?
I think it's going to be exciting even if we have like a blip.
Well, exactly.
We're going to win games, we're going to lose games. And I think the most heartening thing so far is we've learned from mistakes. Like that Port Vale game, they were direct with us and we couldn't handle it. Come Rotherham, they were direct with us and we did handle it. And as soon as we did handle it, they didn't have a plan B. And I think, that is the thing, right? We've got young players who are learning. They're going to make mistakes, but they're learning. And we've got a coach who can get the most out of them and teach them those lessons. So fantastic. And it's going to be an exciting season no matter what. And that's all we've wanted as a fan base, really, is some excitement, not just doldrums. And we're getting a little bit carried away. We've played some poor teams this year and we've got the results that we should have got, right?
But let's enjoy it.
But exactly, right? We've got to enjoy it because we've enjoyed absolutely fuck all for 3 years. So if people are on here going, don't get too carried away, unlucky. We're going to get carried away until we get absolutely tonked by someone, which I'm sure will happen at some point.
Well, got Luton away next week. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's talk about 2 weeks before the transfer window ends, Tom. If you follow certain conversations, if you go on certain parts of Twitter, you'll think that we need to sign 10 players before the season, before the transfer window close. If you look at the bench yesterday, I think that's the one thing I looked at yesterday, and I thought, when I look at that bench, would you trust Willock to come off and change the game? I don't know. Maybe in some circumstances, but he's not going to do it consistently. I still think there are some positions where we need strengthening. I think the key one being left back. I think Bagan's good. He needs competition. I think we still need another pacey winger. And I wouldn't be surprised if we bring in another potential striker. I think there's also potential for a centre-half, but if Chambers goes, Darland goes, there's a lot of conversations about those. Maybe we'll need to replace them there, but I don't think we're 2 or 3 players off, aren't we? Being a really strong squad.
It's interesting though, because you look at that bench, and we've got Bagan, Chambers, Robinson, Willock,
100%,
who all would have started games last year.
Yeah,
and it's not that weak. It's because we're trusting the youth to start and them on the bench. Granted, it's not much deeper than that, but we have still got Robertson to come back. We've still got NG to come back. I don't think we're as weak as some people think we are. I think because we've started well, perhaps I'm getting carried away a little bit by thinking that we don't need as many replacements in as we probably do need. But I don't think we need much more than 3. Really, we've got the keeper in, left back, like you said. But outside of that, I think we've got players there.
No, and I think my perspective is just, I don't know if Willock is, the Port Vale performance. He wasn't bad. He wasn't great. Would I trust him to come on and have that impact that perhaps you would have done last season with Tanner coming off the bench? I don't know. It's just that I'm clouded by my kind of prejudices towards Willock at the moment, frankly. I think you're right. How many teams in this division would cry out for players like Chambers, Robinson and Willock on their bench? I think 19, 20 teams in this division would cry out for players like that on their bench. And I think we are being maybe slightly pessimistic about it. I still think Callum Robinson has a really big part to play in this squad this year. If he sticks around, he's probably got the biggest part to play as potentially a bit part player. And that might suit him. Last season with Callum Robinson, he struggled with his ankle injury. He had a great run early part of the season, but the second half of the season, his game management was so tight that we barely saw him. I think if we can get the best out of him in tight 30-minute bursts, in hour bursts to start when we really need to kind of change things up, then he could be a crucial player. If he can contribute 10 to 12 goals off the bench, kind of backing up Salah, who scores an 18 to 20, then that's what we've been crying out for from a forward line, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think like it all relies on like the temperament of those players. Are they happy to be that? Are they happy to come on and be that bit part player? And I think that comes down to the manager, how he kind of spins it really. And I think if
Yeah,
they do buy into it, then great. And like you said, they might want that. Like what's Callum Robinson now? 30?
yeah,
Like he's far from the end of his career. So he might want to go elsewhere. But perhaps he'd just want to be around a winning squad because he would have missed that. He wouldn't have had that for a long time. So
no,
yeah, I think all the players that were on the bench yesterday have got something to offer. And I think that's the exciting thing about it. And if they do go, as long as we do replace them, then great. But it does rely on us replacing them. And as we found out in recent years, we haven't been the best in the market at replacing players sensibly. So I think that's why I'm excited that most of our players have come from within, because it's harder to fuck that up. But I don't know
this
if
is
we don't do a huge amount of business between now and the end. I won't. I'll be disappointed, but I won't be as disappointed as I thought I would be if you'd asked me 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at the rumours are that if Chambers is off to Wrexham and Darland is potentially on his way out, we've seen Darland that much this season. It feels like he's the kind of player who could be going. Then we will need to sign players, won't we? Because that's two centre halves going, and obviously Chambers is a versatile player and can play in the middle of the park. If I was to choose between those, I'd rather Chambers go ahead of Darland. Frankly, I still have a belief that Darland's a good footballer. I still think he could provide us something this year because he showed. It looked like he was getting his physicality right early on this season when we saw him briefly in pre-season. I think he's a sellable asset. So if we can get a couple of million quid for him, then we're going to sell him or we're going to loan him to potentially come back. I don't know what's going to happen between now and January. There's lots of rumours about players like Darky Giabo, the guy who was at Plymouth last season. He's still being mentioned. There's talk of Wilson Esbrand potentially coming back in, which I wouldn't mind at left back. And if BBM can get the best out of him, he suits the way that BBM is going to play. I think there's business to be done. I just think it's going to take a few weeks because we are at the mercy of the bigger clubs. When you look at the Premier League, it's just starting now. There's going to be youth players that they don't want around their squad anymore for another season that could potentially be loaned out. If you look at Championship clubs, there's going to be players in the Championship who haven't played as much as they would have liked in the early parts of the season who'll be looking to force moves. So I think there's going to be a bit of a rush towards the end of the window. But I'm with you. I don't think it's as crucial as it was last season. It's not as crucial as it was 2 seasons ago that we need to sign all these players. I think if we can incubate the squad we have in the right way and get the best out of them, I would much prefer that than us plugging the holes. When you look at how critical we have been as fans of our business over the last few years, why would you want to force it? I go back to that January transfer window where we signed Turnbull. We also signed Jeju, right? Fans were disappointed that we'd signed then. We're more disappointed that we signed Jeju than we would have been if we hadn't signed anyone, I think. And I think that's what we need to have as context as fans, really. Yes, there probably are players that we need to sign. There are positions specifically that we need to plug, but I don't think we need to just go and sign everyone for the sake of it, because that's why we've ended up with such bad transfer business over the last few years. Looking around the leagues before we move on to Wimbledon, Luton, Ross, was it Reece Healey? Not Ross Healey, Reece Healey, the man who kind of ruined our Premier League season by coming on against Fulham in place of Camarasa. He signed for Barrow, also the Bluebirds. He's the third player in history to play for both Bluebirds, Cardiff City and Barrow. Tom, can you name any of the other two?
Oh, fuck off. No way. Not a chance. Go on.
One of them is a guy called George Smith, who was a player in sort of 1940. He was born in 1945, so this would have been a very 60s move. So I didn't expect you to get him. The other was Malvin Kamara. Remember Malvin Kamara?
Just about. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be an absolute world beater for us, but he wasn't. He had one really good game where he put in an absolutely worldy of a cross that we scored from in the 2006 season, 2006-2007, I think it was. But then flattered to deceive. And his mate Nick McCoy was done for match fixing. They both signed from, I think it was MK Dons at the time. They signed for us both at the same time. Neither of them had glittering careers. Some of them have even been banned from playing football. And that's a lovely segue. Wimbledon on Tuesday, Tom. This is the kind of games that we wanted from League One, isn't it? AFC Wimbledon, a team we've never played an official game in our history since they've been AFC Wimbledon, obviously, the real true Wimbledon. We were the last team to play Wimbledon as Wimbledon in an away game, May the 1st, 2004, I think it was. They came to us, played at Ninian Park as Wimbledon. The next season, they started as MK Dons. That's a fact, isn't it, Tom?
That's good, that, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think
good,
this is
isn't
what
it?
happened. When Ben Price isn't here, I've realised this, because we did a few pods like together, just me and you, when we got this back up and going. And like, I realised how much we just reeled off, like just reading out stats. And we've
Yeah,
gone straight back into that, stats and
straight back into
facts.
that routine. This is the
Yeah, it's good
stats pod.
stuff.
Yeah, but that's a good fact.
It's a good one. It's a good one. You can have that, definitely.
Yeah. So it's our first ever away game at the Cherry Reds Record Stadium. It's our first ever game against AFC Wimbledon. Obviously, everyone knows they are the true Wimbledon. They've done all right this season. They're 6 points out of 3 games. I think they lost their first game. They beat Reading this weekend. They beat Lincoln. So they beat teams who are going to be around the mid-table. This feels like, Tom, obviously with them and Luton this week, we've played Peterborough, crap. We've played Rotherham, aren't what we thought they would be, but we still beat them and played well. Wimbledon in mid-table, Luton, who should be banging down the door of the playoffs at least, maybe into promotion. It feels like the first couple of tests of the season, doesn't it?
I think this is where we'll know where we're at for sure. I think we would have had the kind of full spectrum of, 2 easy games at home. We've had a tough away already. Yeah, the kind of like promotion contenders and like a tough midweek away. Perfect. We'll know exactly where we're at. I think we'll know exactly what players stand up against what tests. And I think this is where we'll start to see then consistent kind of starting 11s for certain games coming out of it. But yeah, I'm excited by this week. I think going into it with 7 points is a good place to be, because there's not as much pressure to get a result. Like if we get a draw at Wimbledon, I think that's suddenly a good result. Where
100%.
If we'd lost a game or two already, we're starting to think
the pressure ramps up then,
back.
doesn't it, already?
100%. Yeah, I think we're at the top of the league and the only way is down from there. But like that's a good place to be. I'd rather be at the top looking behind us than the other way around trying to claw points back from early doors. So yeah, it's an exciting week, but we'll know exactly where we're at by the end of it.
I think it's another sign of how excited the fans are about this division and the kind of season we're embarking upon. I think a Tuesday night, Wimbledon isn't an easy place to get to within London, let alone from Cardiff. So the fact that we're taking 1,500, we sold out our away allocation. They put extra tickets on sale. The demand has been there for this one, for a Tuesday night game that it's probably on some Sky channel somewhere. I think it just shows that we're going there excited. We're going there ready for the test, and I think it's just going to be a really good Tuesday night occasion. I'm going to keep the same team, Tom. Are you going to keep the same team?
Well, Mafika won't start.
All right, but Bagan will come in then.
Bagan. I wasn't trying to catch you out. I'm just being clear. You got very touchy then.
I forgot you didn't start for a minute.
But yeah, outside of that, I think you're right. I think we were so good in that Rotherham game. Unless there's a few injuries or people are tired and the stats are down or whatever, I think I'm putting the same team out there. But we've got a lot of games in quick succession, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does swap it out a bit, because we made changes for the Swindon game and we played well in that. Yeah. So let's see what he does. It'd be really interesting to see what his approach is.
Yeah, and I think Tuesday's game dictates what happens, obviously, against Luton next Saturday. I had a little look. We are on a 5-game losing streak to Luton. Before that, we were on a 4-game winning streak. So if we win against Luton next Saturday, we'll probably go on a winning streak again, because it seems to go in patches. Luton is, for me, Tom, it's the first real test of the season. I think Wimbledon will be tough. It's not going to be an easy place to go by all means. But Luton came down with us. They're a team that a lot of people seem to be tipping for promotion. They've signed well. People like Naki Wells, we know all about his pedigree, amongst their other players as well. Luton is never an easy place to go. We always seem to struggle there. Even when we've won in the past, it's been tight games. If we go with that young team again, Tom, it feels like another Port Vale in a sense of it's going to be quite intimidating and quite daunting for the players.
Yeah, it's exactly that, with another caliber of player as well. Like they've probably got like 2 or 3 players per position in their squad. They can afford to lose. They can afford to lose like 7 or 8 players and still have the strongest squad in that league. But them and Huddersfield probably, I think. But the pressure will be on them. And I'm absolutely fine with that. And I didn't think we'd be saying that, but the pressure will be on them, because we've started well. They've lost a game now. Be interested to see how they get on midweek. Because I think a draw there, I'd bite your hand off right now. No matter what happens against Wimbledon, like I'd take a draw at Luton. Because I think that if we're unbeaten at the end of this first 5 games of the season, that would be an unbelievable place to be. Because Luton away is the toughest game we'll have this season. So yeah, I'm excited for it at the moment. There's a chance we lose it like 3-0. Like, I think
Yeah.
there is a genuine chance that we could get turned over with that young squad. But this young squad have surprised me already, and I wouldn't be surprised if they surprised me again. So anything could happen in that fixture. I genuinely find it quite hard to call.
I agree with you. I think the tell will be on Tuesday and how well we play on Tuesday and how we can keep that consistent. I think Luton have signed well. They've got a lot of players, but they're still under a new manager in the sense of Matt Bloomfield. He obviously came in last season, hasn't really had a long time there to kind of bed them in and make them his own image. So they could still be learning, especially with the new players they've brought in. There's some old friends there. Obviously, Mark McGuinness, he started yesterday and they lost, no coincidence. And they got Jerry Yates up front, who's a jack bastard. So it's one of those games. I feel like it's going to have a bit of needle. It's going to have a bit of edge. It always seems to at Luton. But I think if we win that and we're able to kind of dent Luton's opening 5 games as well and push them further down the table, that's a huge psychological victory as well, isn't it? It just shows that, again, if we can beat the rivals and beat the teams that we came down with, then it shows that we will have evolved when they wouldn't have.
I think, yeah, for sure. And I think it's one of those games where it'd be a real test of the character of our players. Like, I think we've seen a little bit of petulance from Bagan this year with the challenge he did need to do against Port Vale. I think, like you said, it's going to be a niggly game. And I think we need to know to keep our heads. And I think it'll be a real test of character for some of these young players. So I'm a little bit nervous in that respect because I think they'll try and get under our skin early. But I think they're there to be got at as well. Because if the pressure's on them, if we can get under their skin, like if you've got twinkle toes of Colwell going through them and they start hacking us down early doors, then there's an opportunity as well. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. And I think we've just got to remember as a fan base, if we do get turned over, don't get too carried away with the negativity because it may happen.
They've also got Wigan this week, and Wigan are the team directly in line with them. They're both home games for them. But you imagine if Luton lose to Wigan on Tuesday, and then we come and get an early goal or start playing football early on and get under their skin, then their fans are going to turn on them as well. They can make it a really nasty place for themselves to be. 2 games, Tom. How many points are you picking up?
I'm on a good run at the moment because I predicted the 2-1 against Swindon.
2 last week.
I said 2-0 against Rotherham, so I was a little bit too negative there. I think we'll win. I think we'll win 2-0 away at Wimbledon. I think we'll keep another clean sheet. I think we'll lose 2-1 to Luton. And I don't think that's the end of the world if we do. But yeah, I don't often predict us to lose. But
no.
But I don't know. I think I'm trying to ground myself a little bit because I'm all for the optimism. But we've been so optimistic in this and getting carried away that I think I'm just trying to keep myself on the ground a little.
I'm going to go 4 points from these 2 games. I think we're going to draw 1-1 next weekend with Luton. I think we're going to beat Wimbledon 2-1. I can see us conceding a couple of goals this week. But I'm just excited again. I think I'm excited to be going to these new grounds, even if Luton's the ground I've been to almost more than any other ground. But I'm excited to see Wimbledon's ground. I'm excited to see the players again. I just think the excitement's back in this football club. And you can sense it from the fans. You can sense it from the kind of interactions we've had on the podcast this week. And you can even sense it from Ben Price. I know he's bristling at home to be positive about Cardiff City for once. As I've said in tweets, Ben's usually the pessimistic one. I veer between the two. Tom is always the wildly optimistic. But I just feel like there's optimism's back at Cardiff City this season. Twitter.com/VFT Ninian for all your tweets. KOFI.com/VFT Ninian if you want to give us some money for this. Find us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. YouTube.com/VFT Ninian. You can find us on TikTok where I'll be posting some more sticker unpacking videos this week. Tom, time for bed?
Yeah, just about.
Oh, your voice went then. Like Jacob
It
Ramsey.
did, yeah. I wasn't sure how much that came across. But yes, time for bed.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the gym. Use my Sunday wisely. Thanks to everyone who listened. Thanks to everyone who got involved on the tweets. And we'll be back after the 2 games next week. See you then.